EV insanity. This Tesla life hack is the dumbest thing I've seen. You know, just when you think the EV world couldn't get any more ridiculous, someone comes along with the most mind-boggling life hack for charging a Tesla. And by life hack, we mean a recipe for disaster. This one involves draping a wet towel over an EV charging cable to cool it down and supposedly speed up charging during hot weather. Yeah, you heard that right. Water and electricity. Because who needs common sense when you got a Tesla, right? In this video, we'll discuss one of the weirdest EV life hacks you've ever heard. Deadly life hack. So we all know EV charging involves some serious power, enough to make these cables heat up like crazy. In fact, the heat can get so intense that most EV charging cables are designed with built-in cooling systems to handle the load. When things get too hot, the system slows down the charging speed to protect the cable from frying. You'd think that would be a pretty clear sign that these charging cables require a bit more care, right? But no. Apparently that's where this so-called life hack comes into play. According to a popular EV fan site, the solution to overheating cables in hot weather is to drape a wet paper towel over them to cool them down and to keep the charge flowing. Really, a wet paper towel. Water and electricity don't exactly mix, and yet this hack is being sold as some kind of genius fix. Wet towels may seem harmless, but impure water can conduct electricity, and if any of that water gets into a crack or a weak spot in the cable, you're looking at a possible electrical short, or worse, someone could get electrocuted. And let's be honest, with the kind of power flowing through these cables, that's not just a minor inconvenience, it's a potentially deadly situation. But here's when it gets even more mind-boggling. People seem to have a strange blind spot when it comes to the dangers of electricity. Think about it, we're all hyper-cautious around gas nozzles, knowing full well the risks of fire, explosions, or gas leaks, yet somehow when it comes to EV charging cables, which are literally pumping out massive amounts of electricity, people get way too comfortable. It's as if there's a major disconnect in how people perceive the dangers of electricity versus more traditional fuel sources. So let's talk about what that means in practical terms. EV charging cables aren't these indestructible, forever safe pieces of equipment. Just like any other high-tech device, they are subject to wear and tear. And after years of exposure to the elements, that being rain, snow, intense heat, you name it, these cables can start to degrade. The insulation, which is supposed to protect you from all that raw electrical power, might crack, weaken, or just fail over time. Add a bit of water to that equation, a wet towel draped over the cable, and you're practically asking for disaster. We're talking electrical shorts, sparks, and maybe even electrocution. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when something goes wrong. Now, let's not kid ourselves about the power output we're dealing with here. Most people are familiar with their household appliances, a microwave, a hair dryer, or even an electric kettle. That kettle uses about 2 kilowatts of power. Now imagine something 150 times more powerful than that. Yeah, you heard that right. Some of these EV chargers can deliver up to 300 kilowatts. That's not just some minor increase in power. It's an absolutely enormous leap. The kind of power that should make you think twice before doing anything remotely careless. And yet, here we have people out there casually suggesting that you toss a wet towel over a charging cable to help it cool down and make it charge faster in hot weather. Seriously? It's like trying to fix a leaky gas tank by sticking a paper towel in the hole. The sheer recklessness is unbelievable, but it seems like people are seriously underestimating how dangerous electricity can be at this scale. And what's worse is that most people don't even realize that over time, these charging cables aren't going to be in pristine condition forever. After being exposed to rain, freezing temperatures, or even the blistering heat of summer, those cables will degrade. And when they do, their insulation may no longer be enough to protect you. If water seeps in through any tiny crack, especially if that water is not pure, it can conduct electricity and put you in harm's way. One minute you're thinking you're speeding up your charging time, and the next you could be dealing with an electrical short, or even worse, electrocution. The fact that anyone would even think about trying a wet towel hack, given how much power is flowing through these cables, is absurd. Imagine if someone tried that with a household electrical appliance that draws a fraction of the power. People would immediately see the danger. Yet somehow, because it's an EV, the risks seem to be shrugged off. It's as if there's this collective ignorance about the potential hazards, and it's honestly terrifying. Tesla's Supercharger discussion. If you're wondering where this life hack came from, well, here's your answer. There's an article floating around on Inside EVs that suggests using a wet towel on Tesla Supercharger handles to improve charging speeds in hot weather. The idea is that keeping the handle cool prevents the system from throttling the charge rate. A clever workaround, right? Wrong. Rather than addressing the actual issue, why these supercharger handles are overheating in the first place, the article simply glosses over these serious safety concerns. It's almost like no one wants to admit how impractical and dangerous EV charging has become under certain conditions. The thing that's really scary is how these forums and discussions completely downplay the risks. It's as if the fact that you're dealing with massive amounts of electrical power has been entirely forgotten. EV charging isn't like plugging in your phone. These superchargers are delivering thousands of times more power, and yet we have people acting like a wet towel hack is no big deal. It's one thing to experiment with DIY hacks in low-risk scenarios, but playing fast and loose with supercharger cables, that's a whole nother level of irresponsibility. And yet the article presents this hack as if it's a minor adjustment, downplaying the very real hazards involved. Swiss cheese risk model. Drawing from the Swiss cheese risk model, there's an important lesson to be learned about how these seemingly minor, careless actions like draping a wet towel over an EV charging cable can lead to a much bigger problem. Swiss cheese risk model is a simple but powerful way of understanding risk. Think of each layer of protection, like charger design or safety protocols, as a slice of cheese. Normally, these layers help prevent anything from going wrong, but each slice has holes, small flaws, or vulnerabilities. On their own, these gaps might not be enough to cause an issue. However, when multiple holes line up across the layers, that's when disaster strikes. The wet towel hack might seem like an innocent enough trick to cool down a cable, but it's just another potential hole in a system that already has its own flaws. Combine that with a few other weak points, maybe a defective charger software, wear and tear damage to the internal wiring, or, weather-beaten insulation, and suddenly all these small vulnerabilities align. That's where the real danger lies. A seemingly minor oversight can snowball when combined with other failures, turning what could have been a small issue into a catastrophic event. It's clear that this wet towel life hack is more than just a simple, misguided attempt to solve an EV charging issue. It's a reflection of a much bigger problem within the electric vehicle community. The fact that enthusiasts are willing to increase their own risks with such dangerous shortcuts shows a serious disconnect from the realities of the technology they're so eager to embrace. This isn't just about one unsafe hack. It's about an alarming trend where the real dangers of EV charging are being downplayed or outright ignored. These vehicles require immense electrical power, and the risks of mishandling that power are very real. Yet instead of addressing these concerns head-on, there's a tendency to dismiss them, as if the sheer excitement around electric vehicles somehow makes them immune to the laws of physics and safety. The culture surrounding EVs seems to thrive on this overconfidence, where problems like overheating chargers are met with casual DIY fixes instead of serious solutions. It's as if the goal of pushing the EV agenda has caused people to overlook the fact that they're dealing with a technology that, when misused, can be incredibly dangerous. At the end of the day, the wet towel hack is just the tip of the iceberg. It highlights a broader issue: the willingness to take shortcuts, ignore potential hazards, and brush off the consequences, all in the name of promoting electric vehicles. Until the EV community starts treating these risks with the seriousness that they deserve, these kinds of reckless approaches will continue to emerge, putting more people in harm's way. Hey, if you like this video, please subscribe to the channel to enjoy more videos like this.